again, I like the insight into what's going on in Earth, but I feel like we should be following a secondary character on Earth and giving us an Earth perspective in this case. Hey everybody, welcome back to the Stoneface Reactions. I'm Theta, and we're back with another episode of Space Battleship Yamato. Oh, what's that? That looks like a new thing. Yeah, that's right. The overlay that I mentioned before. The artist kicked it into second, fourth, fifth, I don't know what the highest gear is. I don't drive, sorry. They kicked it into high gear, and they got it all made. Cool little Yamato here that looks even better. Ironically, when the cover for copyright reasons is down, something that if you only watch on Patreon you won't see. So you have to see the worst cut on YouTube to see the full Yamato. Cross promotion, I guess. I obviously know that that is the logo for the movie version of Yamato, and sorry, the live action movie version of Yamato. And I brought that up to the artist that I recognized that it was. But here's the thing, I would also argue that it's probably the best version of all the logos. Except for maybe I would argue that the OG logo that I was using for my previous overlay was pretty good too. But beyond that, all the other ones identify the specific series that they come from. Like Space Battleship 2199 has 2199 in the logo. So of all choices, I decided to move forward with this one. So now I think the main explanation that has to come here, as every time this character has shown up on screen, I've shit on them for being horrible. And maybe only a couple of guesses that I've made about what might possibly be going on with them has been anywhere near good. And that is, of course, I have been drawn as Dessler. And I've explained this on a number of other recordings that I've done today, because obviously I'm recording this live on Twitch, where I do all of my solo content stuff. That what I do is I take a listing of all the shows that I watch, and I put that with all the characters from those shows that I've been drawn as, because this is a kind of like a building exercise, essentially. And I take that to an AI, and I tell the AI, without spoiling anything about the show, these are all the characters I like from other shows. Tell me what character from this show expresses all the traits from those characters in the best way. And it tells me, typically, what character is like all of those other characters and for what reasons. Now, it doesn't give me any spoilers. It's just like, essentially, in the area of charisma or something, this character is like Führer King Bradley and Fulkin from Escaflowne. Führer King Bradley from Full Metal Alchemist. That sort of thing. And if I remember, hopefully I do, I'll put that thing up here on the screen, little scroll by, because I showed that to my artist to explain to them how I'm coming up with the decision of what characters to be like, right? So I know it seems weird, because I've only, like, even, I think I mentioned this last time. Ooh, I'm gonna have to explain why. Because this guy is not exactly what was described yet. He might turn out to be more of a well-rounded character in 2199. He might turn into a better character later in this show. Like, I'm not expecting him to be a hero. By no means have any of the characters I've been drawn as been heroes. Anti-heroes, maybe. Mostly villains. But usually not, like, irredeemable villains, right? Not like what this guy has shown to be so far. Usually, they're characters with depth, characters that you can understand their journeys, that sort of thing. Maybe less Bradley, King Bradley, but I've expressed in many shows that I watch why I usually not like side with the villains, but enjoy villain characters more. When plot armor is discussed, villains don't tend to have plot armor unless they're like load-bearing villains. You know, the show wouldn't exist without their continued survival. But when you're watching like a fight between the good guys and the bad guys halfway through the season, and none of them are like the main villain, hell, sometimes it could be the main villain up to that point anyway. there's no guarantee that any of the villains are going to survive. If you've been watching like a secondary villain and they've escaped a fight, that dude has a story now. Most of the time, they just fucking, they're gone. So, I like villains that have stories that you never know in any given episode they're going to run into the heroes and they're going to fucking lose it. It's more interesting. I have investment. I don't tend to have as much investment in the heroes getting into fights because the heroes don't tend to lose fights unless the show is way more in depth than most of the shows we watch. So that's where that tint comes from, Left side hero, right side villain. My angle is more this way. So that's my explanation as to why I've been drawn as Dessler. Hopefully, you can continue watching shows with me knowing that that's going on. I understand that this guy is a fucking piece of shit so far, and I would not blame anyone for being like, I cannot stand with this guy anymore. Not that anyone ever really stands with me, but point being, that's where we're at. That's where we're at with all of this. This is our new thing going forwards that I assume is going to last us till the end. Obviously, the aspect ratio is going to change, but I've already pre-planned for that. So once we get to $21.99, expect more of this. Once we get movies, expect more of this. Once we get to the live action, where that title card is actually not the title, the logo is actually coming to play, expect more of this. Anyway, we got a board, we got notes, and with the board comes the board changelog, where I connected Shiro and Mamoru with a green line. Given the past flashback thing we got from last episode. And I added Shiro's sister, connected her to Shiro with the blue line, and then marked her as dead. Not a lot usually happens on the board in relationship to characters. Usually it's family from flashback, or, well, that's usually it. I think we've established pretty much who's on the ship so far, so. Alright, well, that said, we also have notes. This episode was an excellent mystery in space episode. The Gamalis's magnetic tube could have been anything. And I would argue that in a different show, it would have been amazing. I'm not saying this episode wasn't great, but anyone that's ever read Rendezvous with Rama, for example, knows that you can do so much with something like this. The problem is that this show heavily leans into its time limit mechanic to the point that we repeat over and over again how behind we are and how we need to stop fighting and run more. Well, that makes this episode like that tunnel through the space cloud one. Why are we sitting here wasting time? Shoot this thing with the wave motion gun or warp around it. Space is vast. Go around. I'll point out that they only bring up the dangers in warping away from the fortress after half of the episode, when they are in its effect, not before. They could have warped around it before, apparently. We see the pilot of the first scout plane get torn apart by the effects of the Gamma base, but it's only supposed to affect magnetic surfaces, so how did that happen? Also, as we later find out, Shiro's limbs are all mechanical, so why wasn't he torn apart in the brief stint out of their seamless jet before getting into the base? Kodai calls Shiro Chief Engineer for some reason. Shiro is the science officer. Tokugawa is the chief engineer. Despite this, he's given an engineering role in his backstory as well. I guess I'm supposed to take away that he's a talented engineer, despite not being the ship's primary or secondary engineer, as we know that there's a secondary engineer too, that guy who talks to Tokugawa in some of the episodes. The guy who was propositioning that they should settle down on another inhabitable planet instead of doing this thing, which could fail and kill them all anyway. Also, the implication that Shiro has just been 4 walking bombs this entire time should really unnerve everyone around him. Who knows what stray beam of solar radiation or electromagnetism could set Shiro off and kill the entire bridge crew. And my final note, once again, I'm out of alignment with the editors, but this time only by 1 day. They say it's the 20th. My account says it's the 21st. It's entirely possible that I fell out of alignment with what's true at some point, and that the editors just got back to being right, because as I pointed out before, one time they were like 2 weeks off, so who knows. I'll say that the last two things on my time chart are January 18th, Yamato encounters and destroys the Baronodon with 263 days left to go, and then January 21st, the Yamato comes across the Gameless Fortress 13 and destroys it. 260 days left to go. Those are my notes, though, so nothing really left to do here but to hop on in and see what we get.
But before we get started,
make sure that you hit the like button,
hit that subscribe button,
comment down below to feed that algorithm.
On top of all that, if you want to watch more shows like this, unfiltered,
uncensored,
and uncut,
as well as some early access stuff,
you can check it out over on the Patreon.
It's just $5 a month, but hey, no pressure.
There's zero pressure in order to do that. It's just a little bit of extra support, and it would be greatly appreciated.
Homeland in space. Mother shed tears for your sake. Probably says sake. Sake, not sake. Sorry, somebody was telling me to drink sake in a comment about Space Battleship Yamato, and that may have just stuck in my head. Sorry, something I was talking about between episodes that I thought I would bring up here is God, I just thought about bringing it up, and it suddenly just vacated my head. Oh, sorry. The element here, and you can't tell this now from the opening, is that due to this new overlay, it raised the bottom up a little bit, and the subtitles were already threatening to be off the bottom of the screen. So they were really getting cut into. So I've had to return back to editing the subtitles again myself. In this case, the rest of the episode past the opening here, the subtitles should be higher in the screen, easier to read. Which is pretty good, because in 2 weeks from now or something, we're going to be going back to the original Legend of the Galactic Heroes, which I have to edit those subtitles too. I think I also raised those up, and I changed the color, because my original file has them in yellow, and I hate watching anime that's subtitled with yellow subtitles. You know, old school 90s California subtitling. So, it's good practice for getting back into it.
時に西暦2199年、地球は宇宙の謎の星ガミラスから優勢爆弾の攻撃を受け、その放射
in defense of this decision, I at least appreciate that they've introduced the concept, as per my previous thoughts, that Gameless is doing this to settle the planet Earth, right? It's a horrible move, and it doesn't make a lot of sense from the position that they could just do this to any uninhabitable planet. They could have done this to Mars. But it at least explains that they're doing it for a reason. You know, it's not like they just did this out of nowhere. It's stupid, because they could have done it to anything. They have all of space, they didn't have to cross an entire deep space to get to Earth. You know, double not for nothing. They could have done it to Bimaria. Why'd they do that to Earth and not Bimaria? Calling him a space wolf now also makes no sense. The only reason we know he's good is to get decorated for winning some battle that we didn't see. He has been a really big failure so far. Okay, he's one of our fighter pilots, isn't he? Maybe that's the fighter pilot uniform. Pretty fucking big mouth. I think he's depressed. I don't know, his ears would be ringing from depression. Crap. I said that name, I just let it go. I didn't see it.
これを森生活班長に提出してイメージルームの治療を受けなさい。ありがとうございます。
Therapy in the image room. Be their version of like a holodeck. I think they did show something like that before. Oh, it's gonna be Akira, isn't it? No, Akira had purple hair, didn't he? And yeah, they did show this place before. That's where Analyzer's doing a hula thing. So technically, Space Battleship Yamato had a holodeck before TNG showed up and had a holodeck. Wonder if it's where TNG got it. Also, didn't they just say somewhere warm? I heard her say that and he answered something. I didn't pay any attention to him. Okay, what's the difference between this and the holodeck gonna be? Is he gonna walk into a wall? Oh, is this gonna be where Mother's Tears comes from? But this is like his home village? There we go. Called it. Oh, didn't even show his hands going through her. I guess I couldn't do it. Oh, Ahara, not Akira. Oh, that's the communications guy. That's right, he's the only one with a, besides Mori, with a yellow outfit that I'm aware of. The fighter pilots are black and yellow. More black than yellow, though.
こちらヤマト。こちらヤマト。艦長起きただ。国連宇宙局ヤマト計画本部ついていますか？こちら国連宇宙局ヤマト計画本部。
This has to be a trick. We've already had a communication saying that they wouldn't be able to communicate. Legitimately, they said they couldn't communicate after they left the solar system. They either forgot that or this is a trap.
これまで航路上の障害や戦闘などで6万1000光年51日の遅れを出しているが、このワープ能力によってあと158日後には放射能除去装置を受け取って地球へ帰る。どうぞ。いや安心した。全く安心したよ。ヤマトが冥王星のガミラス基地を潰してくれたんで、優勢爆弾の攻撃はもうなくなった。問題は残された放射能汚染だ。
Okay, ignoring the fact that this conversation shouldn't be happening, he should also be reporting about them rebuilding the Pluto base. Okay, communications guy, who has really little job. That's a fair assessment. We have no idea if the Gambless people are Iskander. Honestly, this could be false hope. Secretly communicating? What are you reaching for there? You don't need pockets. To be fair, I completely understand this. One of my favorite parts of the World War Z novel is the communication people keeping communication on Earth going during the zombie stuff, and most of them commit suicide because it's just you can't handle that sort of emotion going on. Hearing people dying and not being able to do anything to help them constantly. My hero over here is going through literally the same thing.
乾杯乾杯乾杯地球の無事を祈って
艦長早く良くなってくださいね
I mean, again, it doesn't make any sense to that one episode. Since they said we shouldn't be able to communicate anymore, but this is a really forward-thinking episode about mental health and whatnot.
昼間の相原の言葉がずっと引っかかっているんです。このヤマトは本当にイスカンダルへつけるんでしょうか。イスカンダルは放射能除去装置を渡してくれるんでしょうか。
But then again, the episode that they talked about not being able to communicate more was also really good about mental health stuff.
前に地球へ帰れるんでしょうか。
おいおい島公開班長のお前がそんなことじゃ困るじゃないか。
お前には疑問はないのか。お前の目にはこの後悔は確かなのか。
いやそれは
ユキ君はどうだ。真田さん、徳川機関長。ねえ、佐藤先生どうです。
I mean, to be fair, the secondary engineer I was just talking about, this was his thoughts too. Now all the rest of the crew are having them.
相原の気持ちはヤマト乗組員全員の気持ちなんだ。
島。
はい。
信じようではないか、成功。人生確かなものなど一つもない。人間の一寸先は闇なんだ。かといって、いたずらに不安がっていては何もできん。不安を克服し、明日を信じる。それも我々にとって大事な心の戦いなんだ。
I mean, I understand where he's coming from, but in a situation where there's a 1% chance of victory versus a situation where there's like a 70% chance of victory, he should probably aim towards the 70% chance. Especially when the stakes are some people surviving versus nobody surviving. I understand, it's not the point of this show, but from an outwards perspective, I feel like that should maybe be the thing.
Ah, 班長。俺が代わろう。いいんですか？お体は。別に病気じゃないよ。俺は。それじゃあお願いします。
Depends on how you define it. God, those are huge buttons.
こちらヤマト。こちらヤマト。
吉和かい
母さん、聞こえるかい？
いいのかいこんなにちょくちょく連絡して。
I just realized I'm doing the edits again. I usually bring the question marks and the exclamation marks closer to the letters. I don't know why they do it in these shows. I don't know why they put the space between them. Legend of Galactic Heroes has the same problem. Again, I like the insight into what's going on in Earth, but I feel like we should be following a secondary character on Earth and giving us an Earth perspective in this case. Because again, Yamato should not have any communication with Earth. We covered that already. Oh, here's the riots. I'm only laughing because they did not change the animation of the riders at all. It's just they put a water effect on, and the guy is still like, ah.
ここんとこ毎日だからね。
母さん。
この間の時もそうだった。父さんは私がひもじいだろうとつい暴動に加わっていったんだ。行かせなきゃよかった。こんな体になって。
And though I really appreciate that they're covering the fact that it isn't just everyone dies on the last day, things are going to get progressively worse until they come back and essentially what few people survived are still alive. I mean, it's rough. But again, I appreciate that we're getting episodes like this. I hate that I keep using the word appreciate.
そうか。君の精神疲労はこれが原因だったんだな。そうと。俺は数日前地球への通信が回復したのを知ったとき、まず自分の家へダイヤルセットしてしまったんだ。
Wish you'd explain that a bit more.
この数日間、許可のない指針を続けてきた。その通りだ。それがどうした？貴様は俺を裁こうというのか？
Yeah, literally everyone cried the last time people talked to home. Fair, he can't. To be fair, if anyone had a job on this ship that was constantly involved looking backwards instead of forwards, it's the communication guy. Except for Anna, actually, his only communication is to communicate with the fighters that scout ahead.
こんなあやふやな後悔は今すぐやめて地球へ引き返そう。父さんが死んだんだ。やがて母さんも死ぬだろう。俺もどうせ死ぬなら父さん母さんの元で死にたい。ヤマト地球へ。島。地球へ向かうさ。
Oh no, I think we might have to kill this guy. I feel like he's gonna do something heavily mutinous and dangerous, and we're gonna have to put him down. And why the fuck is there only one person on the bridge? Fair enough. We've proven that we can lose any amount of fighters we want. And the fighters can warp too, apparently. We covered that. They warp ahead of the ship. And then the ship warps to where they're at. Tell me he didn't space himself, and that he's just out there in a spacesuit sneaking. Ah, this is just as bad. It's stupid, though. It's bad. At this speed, like a billion years? No, we'll never. Technically, the Milky Way is accelerating away from you faster than you're moving. Conceivably, also, you're moving backwards because you left the ship going in this direction. So the Yamato is moving away from you, but technically you're still moving this way towards the Yamato. We get the medal, I think.
ヤマトは今一路このバランを目指している。ヤマトはおそらくバランがガミラスの騎士であることを知るまい。ヤマトにとってバランは単なる航路上の目標、灯台のようなものだ。そこに油断がある。私はヤマトをこのバランに引き寄せて殲滅するつもりさ。だがその前に念のためもう一つ手を打っておきたい。おお、どんな。ヤマトの乗組員の心をかき乱す作戦さ。
I knew it. Knew I was fucking right.
ヤマトと地球との通信を回復させ。
Oh, so never mind. I was half right. I knew it was a trick. I didn't know that he could do the thing. Clever. I give it. It's clever. Affect the morale of the ship, and the ship might not be able to fight anymore. God, the show is so good for 1974. That's the kind of stuff I would think that modern shows might not even think about. That's the creativity I would attribute to, like, The Expanse. Not even Star Wars anymore. I wonder if those are, like, communications, breathing in water or something, or if his head is being positioned in the helmet not to be able to move. Okay, I guess he's running out of air because he's delusional. Imagine if he was randomly immortal. And he got this far, like 1,000,000,000 years, he finally somehow caught up to Earth, despite physics. He would just collapse into the atmosphere and burn up. Huh. Do you think they destroy it, or do they keep communications with the Earth instead of destroying it?
そうか、地球への通信は偶然回復したのではなかった。ガミラスの罠だったのだ。俺はその罠にはまって心を乱した。人類を滅ぼそうとしている。
I don't think that you would have the wherewithal to think this.
それはガミラスなんだ。
Because
そのガミラスと戦うためにヤマトで来たのではなかったか。
legitimately, this is just weaponizing the truth.
ヤマトへ帰らねば。
Everything is exactly the same as it was before your revelation.
ヤマトは
Okay, this is fair. Realization of how badly you fucked up. Also, in fairness, without any other reference points, you would not be able to tell that you were moving. The stars wouldn't be moving around you. So, you know, the luck of all of space to float into this thing. Legitimately would not be able to hear you. Good, you covered it that time. Okay, they're gonna give up their communications back with Earth. Also, with no confirmation of anything, right? We gotta destroy it. Alright, you said so. How about also the fact the impetus before was, you've been doing this without the captain's permission? Did not consult the captain if they should destroy their only way of communicating back to Earth again. You know, maybe the captain would want to give like one last progress report before he destroyed it. I think I'm also going to have to convert the subtitles to white, like I said before, now that I'm editing the subtitles again. I just complained about how I hate the yellow subtitles. I guess they've been yellow the whole time. I didn't pay attention. Oh, a fight, of course. I assumed the wave motion cannon again, too. Wave motion gun. Arguably, mankind is rushing its way to extinction faster than that date, too. Alright, obviously I want to have a whole conversation about my misgivings at the start and their answer to it later in the episode, but there's obviously, I'm going to be interrupted by the editor's thing and whatever argument I'm going to have about what the editors say, so I'm going to hold off for a minute. Masato hands over a prescription to Ahira. It's an orderly serves sake, sauce cup, but it was edited out. Don't tell us about stuff that's edited out. I didn't see it in the first place. Oda has a dinner with the upper-ranking officers, judging from the blue arrow and white uniform. The one who served was a member of the Living Environment Group. Yuki appears in a sexy see-through negligee. Wasn't see-through. Kodai serves Ahira in space. He saves Ina's Cosmo Zero. Didn't see the second sentence because I paused to correct myself on the difference between serves and saves. Okay. I appreciate that they do answer what's going on with the element of where the communications are coming from, right? Because obviously I harped on it, like, to the point where I'm assuming I'm going to get comments from people explaining where the communications are coming from, because people post before they finish the episode. I'm not going to harp about people doing that. I frickin' do it myself. So yeah, also, though, I will say, I edit mine after the fact, because I don't want to look dumb for all eternity. I edit mine with new information, or I delete the post if it doesn't turn out to be worth anything anymore. People will correct me, oh, they explained when they're commenting about something I said in the first 10 minutes. That said, I wish they introduced the concept of the communications thing, the gambless bit, near the beginning, right? Because my problem is that this is 1974, and a bunch of these plot points, sometimes they're making them up in the moment, sometimes they just completely disregard something that they've set up ahead of time, or not they set up ahead of time, that they established before. It would not have surprised me if this show had just completely forgotten about the element that there was no communications anymore. If they just decided, let's do another emotional, mental health sort of episode. And, not for nothing, I appreciate that they do these sorts of episodes. It really fleshes out the crew. And I don't know, it's kind of impressive that they do these things, considering what's going on in the anime of the era itself. So, it's kind of hard to suggest that, oh, this is dumb, it doesn't make any sense, blah, 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 when it's such a good plot point to bring up in the first place. So I was of like two minds in that scenario. And then when they eventually cover the fact that, oh, this is a gambless plot to lower the morale of the ship, brilliant. Fucking love it. My problem is that it comes at the end, after you've kind of written off this is a problem episode from the continuity aspect. And yes, I do expect the show to keep its continuity. So, when I have a problem with that, it kind of like segments my brain into two parts, where one part is thinking about the continuity and how this is messing stuff up, and the other half is trying to figure out the parts of the episode it enjoys and keep track of the plot, while the other half is talking about the parts that are a problem. I like that we get the communications officer who's having this problem, because they're the ones who has to deal with it the most, especially if communication was reestablished and the captain wasn't letting people talk to Home again. And who, if anybody had the ability to do so and was doing so in secret, communications guy seems like the guy. And the addition of family life, right? And just what did I bring up when I was bringing up the board? Who were the only people that I specifically mentioned this episode when talking about the board that we add to the board now? Family. Because we aren't really introducing anybody who survives the episode that they're in when it's an enemy in the episode. But in this case, it was somebody we met in the episode that wasn't a flashback, and one of them died. So, just the way things happen. So yeah, with a little tweak, like, it's not even that big of a tweak. Like, legitimately, I feel like I could make this episode better. But if not for the fade transitions that they do, because I'm not good at editing those, I could just cut the segment of Domel at Ballin talking about what he's doing with the transmitter, and I take that and I put it right after Okada talking to United Nations HQ, right? I get that far. So, like, what, 2 conversations about communications back home. Just enough time for me to be like, what the fuck is going on? I think around the time where actually I was guessing that it was going to be a Gamless fake out. I thought they were doing something like a deep fake right now. Like, it'd be prescient for them to do that then. But I thought that's what they'd go with. And it wasn't, I didn't suspect it was actually communications back home. But put that there, right around where I'd be guessing, and they're like, confirmation of what I thought. I would feel smart. It would not have me guessing the entire episode, because that does appear like right at the end. I think that would be a massive improvement. But yeah, I mean, like I said, Ihara's whole mental problem dealing with what's going on back home and his comeback with the acknowledgement of what the Yamato's mission is and that the people on the Yamato actually care about him despite what's going on back home. Chef's kiss. The element that Earth isn't just slowly dying, it is going through it. It is, if you've ever seen the 60s, ironically, sci-fi movie On the Beach, or the 2000s remake of On the Beach, also called On the Beach, the apocalypse, man, it's a thing. Like, I'm surprised we haven't gotten the On the Beach thing, which is what most people have a problem with, government-issued suicide pills. Because On the Beach, the assumption is no one's going to survive World War III. When the radiation hits, we're all going to die slowly and painfully. Might as well have an option to go out on your own terms. So I'm surprised the United Nations hasn't done that in this show yet, considering that On the Beach has already come out before Space Battleship Yamato. Anyway, I probably had more thoughts. My brain is just wiped out now dealing with this. So I think I will just have anything else in my notes next time. So once again, I have been Theta. This has been Stoneface Reactions, and we will catch you next time. Bye-bye.
Hey everybody, thanks for watching another Stoneface Reactions. If you have an idea of another video we could go ahead and watch, go ahead and put it in the comments down below and we'll add it to the wheel. Be sure to like, comment, and subscribe, and let us know what you thought about this video, what parts you liked. And until then, we'll see you next time. Is this too goofy?